My name is Helen Rieder, born as Helen Zelikovich. I was born in the Carpathian Mountains, Czechoslovakia. My father's full name is Moses Zelikovich. As I remember, he was a charismatic man, a man who was always involved in the synagogue as what we call, today I would call it, in the social affairs. We had a bakery. During the day he would have to sleep, and at night he worked. And the bakery was in the backyard of our house. So in a way, I remember him as a good father, as an involved father, but also working very hard. About my mother, Regina, in Jewish it was Rivka, Sura Rivka. All I remember her having babies and working and helping out everywhere. She was a very attractive, quiet, unassuming lady. I was the oldest, and we had 9 children. Tiachiv was a community which was about 10,000 families. 2,000 of those were Jewish families. It had a city hall, it had a courthouse, and a big synagogue. Until the age of 10, I remember happy times. Playing, running around, helping out. We had a big backyard with trees, climbing the trees, horsing around. The neighborhood children were very friendly. We were friends with all the neighbors, which were Hungarians. We got along well. For me personally, or for my family, it started to change in 1938, when my father went off to war. He was a soldier in the Czech army. In 1939, the Hungarian regime marched in because the German government said, now you are entitled to get back that part of the world, because before the First World War, it was Hungary. It started to go downhill slowly. It's like the Hungarian people who lived in our town and the neighbors, I can only tell you about the neighbors and the came-in chapter, the chimney sweepers. It's like they got a permission to be nasty, to be derogatory, to call us names. I remember that the children with whom I played, they would call me Bidosh Rivka, you dirty Rivka. That was the derogatory name towards the Jewish girls. You could see from day to day how their anger, how their antisemitism, how they would come and steal without permission. They thought the world belongs to them. I don't know if I was ashamed that I was a Jew, but I sure wasn't. Secretly, I wished, why did I have to be a Jew now? Look what they do to us. Secretly. But openly, no. I do remember there was one Gentile family in town from whom we used to buy the milk. And during the hardships, I would go to them and beg, please let me have some milk for the children. And they would always give me the milk. And this is something I will never forget. And I said, at least somebody was good to us. Yes, I do remember the good things too. In 1942, they took away from us the license to have the bakery. And it was also the time when we started to wear the Star of David. I was told by people, by the gendarmes, by the policemen, you walk on the side in the gutter and you may not walk on the sidewalk. This is what I remember. Now, I guess every town was different. I can only tell you what was happening in our town. I also remember that this was the worst thing in my life and to my family, to put on a star. Although we should be proud of the star, till today, I don't wear stars.
What did it mean to you?
Persecution. That's what it meant to me. You have to remember that my family, they were 5 generations that I know of, because my mother sent me to the archives once. We were all born within that region. And this is why I could never understand. We have always been here. We were good taxpayers. We were good citizens. My father did good deeds to the Jews and non-Jews. They would come to him and say, can you loan us money? We need some money, whatever. He would always help them. Why did they do this to us? The ghetto was the elementary school. There were some private homes. A whole section was taken in for the ghetto. We took a couple of pots and pans. We took clothes. We took pictures, albums. And we took the little jewelry we had. In no time, the people were waiting already to come into the house. So we knew.
What people?
The people, the Hungarian people, there was a Hungarian family. They would pick the homes. People came and picked the homes. I want this house, I want this house, and I want this house because I want the bakery too. And one of the guys who was a baker, and I think he worked at my parents' place at one time, they were waiting for us to leave so they can move in right away and take over. I find myself now, at this point, that what I don't want to remember, I blocked it out of my system. I do remember that every day people were taken out of the ghetto or dead, or half dead,
Why?
or crazy.
What happened to them?
I guess they got crazy, they were hungry, they died out of illnesses. I remember there was one family with 4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters. 2 daughters died at the same time of tuberculosis. They told us to pack up everything and we can only take the bedding and the clothes we carry on ourselves and whatever else. And take, if you have gold or money, you take it with you. And by such and such a time, you all have to be ready. Because we are taking you to a place where you will be getting your own homes, and you will be working, and it will be a nice place. So take the things. Sure enough, my father turned around and he said, we are going to our mavet, meaning we are going to our death. He had to watch what he's saying because he couldn't make a revolution there, or the people should get scared. But every so often I could hear him muddle to himself, talking to himself. And we were ready for them. They came. We all marched down to the railroad station, and that was about a march of an hour and a half. Now remember, we had children. I carried a child, my father carried a child, my mother carried a child. The children carried each other. And it was a broken, sad, just like you see in pictures, marching to the railroad station. Now the neighbors, the Hungarian, the people in town could see this. Nobody stopped saying goodbye to us. No, they were just looking like, here are the animals being guarded forever. When we came to the railroad station, this is where I saw the Gestapos with the dogs and the trains. Slowly we were put on the trains and the family tried to stick together. And we didn't want to get lost, and they would shout, "Schnell, schnell!" And if we didn't go fast enough, the dogs would come close and the Hungarian policemen helped them. And a lot of kicking and a lot of crying and a lot of pushing, but we were pushed into that cattle train like animals. When we got in there, There was straw on the floor, and there was a huge big bucket. And we started to cry and scream, water, water. And even during the traveling, my father took out something out of the pocket. I think he must have had this prepared already, but he didn't tell us. And we had our brother's address, and he took this envelope and he passed it on, and he said to the person who was the closest to the window, throw it out through the window. And then later on he put in all the money we had, and he wrote a letter to my brother. Whatever happens, make sure you survive this, because somebody has to come back and tell the story. Don't give in. Don't give up. That's what my brother told me afterwards, the letter said. After 2.5 days, when we arrived to Auschwitz, the train was going, we arrived to Auschwitz, and then I remember the doors opened, and they said, heraus, heraus, and everything was going very fast, and the dogs were there, the S's were there, and before you knew it, they were screaming, leave everything or take everything, and rechts, links, in the middle, and in no time was I separated from my mother. My next younger sister was with me. We ran back to our mother because we said, no. And I remember there was a woman in stripes. Then I found out later on that she was also a slave in Auschwitz. And when we were going back towards my mother, which she was on the left-hand side with all the children, she was the one who took out a child from my hands and from my sisters and threw it at my mother's. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, keep your mouth shut and get to the right. And she grabbed my sister too. And I said, no, and I was screaming. And she said, if I see you go back, let me tell you, nothing good will happen to you. And I was angry at that woman until I didn't arrive into Birkenau. I realized many times, I think, and I said, whoever that woman was, she saved my life. Before we went into Birkenau, there was this beautiful building with flowers in front of the building. And it looked like we are going into a resort place. And once we came in, there was mud, filth, and people walking like zombies. We went for a selection where we had to put our shoes, dresses, whatever we had, get undressed, and then they took us into a big room and they sprayed on us DDT. Oh, I can't remember if they cut our hair first or afterwards, but our hair was cut too. And then we really took a real shower. And then we came out in striped clothes, without hair, wooden shoes. And we didn't recognize each other. And I remember my sister and I just huddled together and we were crying and crying. The people, the zombies who were there, and we were talking, and they said, oh, your mother and the brothers and sisters. See that chimney? That's where they are. They will never come back. Don't believe them. They are burned already. By now, they are gone. And then, within a day, somebody came to look for me and for my sister, and they were screaming, your father is here, your father is here, come quickly, he's looking for you. And I thought they are fooling me, but sure enough, my father managed to come in with some man to clean the toilets or whatever, and he found us and he brought us a piece of salami, what he received the day before, whatever, and he gave us a piece of bread, whatever he saved, and he hugged us, and this was the last time I remember him, and he said to us, Kinderloch, We hebben zo gedacht nemen des Leben, bevor we zijn gekomen nachher. He said we should have taken our own lives before we came to this place. And he gave us the last piece of bread and salami. And maybe he didn't want to eat the salami, so he gave it to us. And then he said, in the same sentence, he was rushing. I guess he wanted to finish. He said, no matter what you have to do, but do it to survive. Somebody has to come back and tell the story. Somebody has to survive from this family. We can't let it go just like this. So in the back of my mind, my father was like, you can't give up, you can't give up, you have to live. And that was the last time I saw him. He was already in striped clothes, impossible to recognize, a broken down man. He was only 44, but he looked like 100 years old. They would wake you up between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I think so, I didn't have a watch. Every personal possession was taken away. And the couple, she was in charge of the camp and she had an assistant. We had to quickly run out to be counted. It lasted for at least 3 to 4 hours, if I remember correctly. They would count us to see if everybody is there. And if somebody was dead, they also had to take him out of the barrack and put him in the line. That person should be accounted for. And they were having games, I remember. Kind of games like they would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and take the fifths out, regardless if she was ill or not. And that was going on for a while. But after 2 or 3 weeks, we started to go to work. By then, my sister got so weak that one morning there was a selection again. Every week or every 2 weeks, they made a big selection, like look around who's weak, and they would take them out of the...
Who were they?
The S's. They would come with a truck and put the dead there, and the half dead and the living. And my sister was taken out. As much as I tried to protect her and keep her, but I couldn't anymore. They grabbed her, took her out of the line and put her on that truck. And I knew exactly where she was going. That was one of again, a black day. I was screaming and crying, but nothing helped.
Did she know?
She knew, yeah. She was a very bright child and she knew what goes on. She used to tell me, I'm afraid I won't make it. I'm afraid I won't make it. I don't have the strength anymore. And even as much as I gave my food up, it still didn't help. Going out from the camp, we would read Arbeit macht das Leben frei. And it never failed. We shouldn't see a couple of people hanging on the left-hand side. It's like they were always letting us know, you try to escape and look what will happen to you. And we would go out to work, we would get our little watery soup where we were working, and my job was to break little stones to build the roads into the camps. I could always see the chimneys. We could always smell the burning, the flesh. By then we knew what was going on. We were already seasoned Häftlingers, prisoners. And there was no hiding, playing up games. And I made it, of course, my knees and my elbows, but that was half the problem. We would come back to camp around 4 or 5 o'clock because we had another appel, another counting, which lasted another 3 or 4 hours. And then again, we would get our little watery soup and go to sleep, I guess. There was a special appel called. I was taken out of the line and we were all grouped up, and they told us, you are going on a transport. And they put us on a transport to Hornburg, which is about an hour from Hamburg. approximately an hour from Hamburg. And we came into that camp. They had about 50 Dutch political prisoners in that camp, plus us, the refugees, the Jewish girls, and the Gestapo women. We worked in a factory. The reason they had German women there is to teach us the profession. We were doing something for airplanes. And every so often, they would push under the table a cookie or a little bread or something. And of course, we had to be very careful. Nobody should see that. We also watched Hamburg burning. Every night the bombs were falling. Instead of getting scared, we were happy that the bombs are falling. And we also knew that they were the Americans. Somehow the Dutch women knew everything. How, what, I don't know. But they would give us the report. There was one, she was a Wehrmacht, not even an SS woman, a woman who guarded us. She would come in every so often to one of the rooms and she would say to us in German, don't give up. You will survive. You will survive. But they managed to take us away from that camp and take us to Porta. Porta was in a big hill in the mountains. And coming up, we could see the men working, like in Egypt, slaves building the mountain, pouring cement. And this is where we were. And we were working there. We worked there and we slept there. Then one day they came and we had to walk down that hill, put us on a train, and they took us from there. And we were traveling for about a day and we arrived to Fallersleben, to another camp. By then, we were all like zombies. And we got some food and more people were dying. One more camp we had to go to. And in that camp, I remember I gave up. And then one day, I remember I was woken up by one of my town women whom I met in that last camp. And she said to me, open your mouth. And she poured into my stomach some brandy or vodka, whatever. And she said, we are liberated. We are liberated. Get up. I couldn't move. After a few days, she helped me get up. And she took me to the gate and she said, you are free. You see, we are all free. They took us out of the concentration camp and put us into the Air Force barracks where the Air Force Army lived, which was, yes, luxury, clean. They were trying to heal us as much as we could. And then alphabetically, we left back to Czechoslovakia. And it took me 2 months before I went back to Czechoslovakia. And I went from Prague to Budapest to look for my brother because I had an address. And I was told, no, I didn't. I was told, and he left a letter and he left messages everywhere and with people that he's on his way to Palestine. I should pack everything and come after him. November 1948, I arrived to Israel. I managed to celebrate the first Independence Day in Israel. I was in the army. I took some Ulpan classes. I studied Hebrew and I became a salesgirl. Israel, I got married. I was happy, but I was restless. The reason I was restless in Israel all this life, although my dreams, my prayers always went towards Israel, and I didn't want to leave my only brother in Israel. After all these years, I haven't seen him for 7 years, and we were reunited. We talk every week to each other. But I felt if I'm going to stay there, I'm going to die inside. I didn't have the freedom what I wanted. Coming to America, I was able to go back to school, to start to be educated again. I was able to reach out somewhere, somehow, what I wasn't accomplishing before. And my biggest accomplishment was my 2 children. Today I can say, without any shame, that I have two beautiful, successful children. And I feel we have done it with hard work and perseverance and having hopes, and with my parents' support all the way in the back of my mind. When my son was 4 years old, I had to look for a nursery school for him. He was an rambunctious boy. And I also wanted to earn some money, so I would say to the director, can I help you? Can I do something so I can pay less money for the nursery school? She guided me until I became an assistant and a teacher, and I worked myself up to become a director. I have been working with Burbank Temple for 32 years. I am the director for the last 27 years. We have Jewish children and non-Jewish children. And Burbank is not a Jewish community. But every morning when I come to work and I look around those children, I say, I hope these children will never be anti-Semites. This is my wish, that the children who went through our nursery school should never become bigots. My message to my grandchildren is that they should know they come from a good people. They should stay Jewish. It's very important to me. They should be good citizens. They should be contributors to society, just like their parents were, and never to bring shame to the Jewish people. It should be productive.